Thank you, Brother Mark. That goes exactly with what God gave me this morning. Daniel 3 and 10. This will be short, so don't sit down. It says, Thou, O King, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the music shall fall down and worship the image. Nebuchadnezzar made an image, and he said, I want everybody to bow down. When I play the music, everybody's going to bow down, right? Is that not what the devil's trying to get us to do? Is he not trying to get us to bow down to him and not to stand up for God and trust in God? Because when you're standing, you're trusting in God, right? Verse 11. And whosoever falleth not down in worship, he should be cast in the middle of the burning fiery furnace. Verse 12. We know this story. It's super familiar. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not your gods, nor worship the golden image that thou hast set up. He was trying to provoke fear into them. We've spoke so much about fear in this church over the last few weeks. And that's where he was trying to put them. He said, if you don't bow down, I'm going to throw you in this fiery furnace. Is that not what the devil uses against us first so many times? He tells us what he's going to do. Well, let me tell you, the devil can only do what God allows him to do. If the devil done everything he wanted to do or that he said he would do, we'd all be destroyed this morning. All of us. There wasn't a person in here be here this morning. We'd all be destroyed. Verse 17. And I love what they said. If it be, 17. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace, he will deliver us out of thy hand. You know, that's one of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn. Just as Mark said, we all want a solution to our problems. We all want the answer. None of us want to go through nothing. Amen. There's nobody here that wants to go through things. But life will bring things upon you. The devil will do everything he can. He's constantly up there asking the Lord, what can I do to them? It's not, if I feel like it today, I'll do this. No, he's trying to do everything he can, and he would do more and more and more if God didn't stop him and hold him back. But one of the hardest lessons I've ever learned is, God, if you allow the fire, if you allow these things to come up against me, do you love me? Because we want to serve a God that can quench the fire, that can stop the fire. So when the fire comes and when hard times come and when troubles come, we start questioning God. God, is it me? Is my relationship with you right? God, do you love me? God, I don't see Josh going through what I'm going through. Do you love him more? We start questioning God. Right? Do we not? Am I the only one? And then if we get to a point, we start questioning God if he's even able. God, are you able to do what I need you to do? God, are you able to put the fire out? I've been going through this fire for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and nothing's changed. Maybe you're just not the God of all that I thought you was. Verse 20. And what is that all about? It's all about getting you to bow down and quit. That's what the king was trying to do. Because they didn't bow, he stoked that fire up 7 times hotter. Verse 20. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army. Listen to this. What did he do to them? He bound them. He bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them in the burning fiery furnace. Bind. is a fetter, and I had to look that word up. It's a chain or a shackle for the feet, or something that restricts or confines. And if you look that word cast up, it means to throw down. To throw down. Now, they didn't bow, but because they were bound, they got thrown down anyways. Either way you look at it, the king got what he wanted. Did he not? He got them on their knees, not voluntarily, but he got them down. And that's where a lot of us are today. We say, well, Lord, I didn't bow, so why am I going through this? Because you're bound. And there's a difference. But it results in the same situation. Whether you bow or you're bound, you're still on your knees. Verse 21. I've read this 1,000 times and I've never got that. There's not much difference between bowing and being bound in the fire. 21, then these men were bound in their coats. They put coats on them, make them burn quicker and hotter. Right? The weight. Brother Doug's preached on that a few times. The weight. He added more weight to them. More weight. More weight. Is that not what the devil does? If you don't bow, I'm just going to put more and more weight on you. And you will go down. They put their coats on them, their hosen, their hats, and their other garments. And they were cast, means they were thrown down in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And they heated the furnace 7 times hotter, bound them in coats that weighed them down, and cast them down in the middle of the fire. Verse 23. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down. Fell down. Don't you think the king was like, I told you was going to go down. I told you was going to fall. I told you was going to bow. He had to bind them. He had to put that weight on them. But he got them on the ground. Verse 24. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished and rose up in haste and spake and said unto his counselors, did we not cast 3 men bound in the midst of the fire? Then answered and said unto the king, true, O king. Verse 25. And he answered and said, lo, I see 4 men. What was they? They were loose. We're looking for the Lord that takes us out of the fire. But before you get out of the fire, you got to be loose. And they was no longer cast down on the ground. They wasn't bowing. What was they doing? They were walking in the midst of the fire. And see, this is exactly the same thing I preached last Sunday. As the storm came, the storm didn't affect Jesus. And it didn't affect Peter as long as he had his eyes on the Lord. And just the same, they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Loose. That word means free. 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 We think of free as being out of the fire. I have learned and learning, the older I get and the more I know about God, man, we want the God that can take us out of the fire. Amen. But I'm telling you right now, you will learn how big God is when you're free in the fire. Amen. And my God, this church needs that this morning. Because there's a lot of people in the fire and they're looking for the exit sign and they're not looking for the 4th man that can free them in the middle of it. That's God, church. And they were walking. He placed them back on their feet, but only after he freed them from what was binding them. Man, that's powerful. Verse 27. And the princes and governors and captains and kings' counselors being gathered together saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power. The devil can huff and puff, and he can even blow your house down. But let me tell you something. If you got hold of the hand that frees you this morning, it has no effect on you. It has no power. Not a hair on their head was singed. Neither was their coat changed. Not even the smell. Couldn't even smell it on them. I'm not telling you this morning that the Lord is going to bring you out of the fire this morning. I'm telling you there is a God that is bigger than the fire you are in. We don't know that as a church. There's a God that's bigger than what you're going through. You've got hold of the problems and you ain't got hold of the solution. God is the solution this morning. His Son is the fourth man because what he did on Calvary can and will free you and stand you back on your feet. You say, what I've been going through has knocked me on my tail. And it makes you question God. It makes you question God. God, how could you let that happen to me? Man, I've been there. I'm the poster boy for that. I'm the poster boy for that. But we're going to have to come to a conclusion, church, that God not only is the God that can take us out of the fire, but God, He's the God that can take you through the fire. He can, and you can have freedom, and you can have peace, and you can have joy with hell all around you. You think my situation's got all great since we come back to church? No. I would love God to heal Shannon. I would love God to heal Kobe. But I've also learned there's a God and there's a Jesus that if I grab his hand every morning, he can give me peace, he can give me joy, he can give me happiness through it. And until we learn that, you're gonna go up and down. Because the exit sign to the furnace, it's got a lot of things that keep it from coming sometimes. Because a lot of other people are involved. And a lot of other things are involved. God will take you out of it eventually, I believe. Even if he has to take you to heaven, he'll take you out of it. But because there's so many other factors involved, there has to be a better way. Because if I have to wait for the fire, God to take me out of the fire, I'm not going to have peace for months. I may go through something I have went through something for 18 years. So I'm supposed to be on the ground for 18 years? I'm supposed to be defeated for 18 years? Jesus paid for more than that, church. He gave you peace in the middle of the fire. He is bigger than what binds you. He is bigger than the fire. And although he doesn't immediately save us out of the fire, he can immediately free us from its effects. But if you are not free, then you are on your back and not standing on your feet. I thought about that this morning. God showed me that this week. He said, really, what was the difference between the ones that bowed and those that were in the fire when they were on the ground? Not much. Not much difference. You say, well, they were saved. Yeah, you're saved this morning, but you don't have peace. You don't have joy. You're not making an impact on anybody else because you're bound. We need freedom this morning in the middle of the fire. We need freedom this morning in the middle of the fire. We need freedom this morning in the middle of the fire. I don't care if you amen it or not. That's what we need this morning. And there's only one solution. There's only one solution, church. It's not me. It's not Brother Doug. It's not Brother Bubba. It's not anybody. It's not the church. It's not a song. It's not a sermon. It's getting up here and saying, God, if you don't help me, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it another day. I'm not going to make it another week. But when you find that out, church, when you figure that out, church, then there's nothing the devil can do to stop you. because the effects, as long as you got hold of the hand, don't affect you. Yeah, there's going to be troubles. There's going to be times. Yeah, I understand that. But you can still have peace. You can still have joy. You can still have happiness. Amen? That's all I got. I'm not going to preach for 2 hours this morning. So if the choir will come.